The cosmos is not merely a static assembly of isolated stars and planets. It is a churning ecosystem that continuously mixes, recycles, and redistributes its fundamental building blocks. And every so often, it flings a piece of itself right onto our front porch. For months, we treated the object known as 3 Atlas as a mere curiosity, a strange interstellar visitor that we hoped to catalog as a simple comet and move on from. But that comfortable narrative has completely collapsed upon contact with the hard data. Information from James Webb, Hubble, ground-based telescopes, and deep space probes has all converged on the same uncomfortable conclusion. This object is behaving unlike anything we have ever seen. It is brighter than models predicted, smaller than anticipated, and encased in a shell of dust and gas that is evolving as it approaches Jupiter, precisely when it should be doing the opposite. However, what has truly stunned the scientific community is the realization that it may not be traveling alone. It is flanked by something that defies standard modeling, forcing us to ask a question that sounds impossible but can no longer be ignored. What exactly is 3 Atlas? As the JPL Horizon system provided sharper orbital data, a subtle but disturbing image of this visitor's true nature began to form. 3 Atlas is not acting like a standard spherical or irregular cometary nucleus. Instead, its movement and light curve imply a teardrop geometry, a shape that naturally creates asymmetries in how light is reflected and how material is ejected. That alone would make it unique. But the true shock arrived when scientists realized that other objects appear to be moving in tandem with it. These are companions that do not sublimate, do not display typical cometary behavior, and, crucially, do not share the same non-gravitational acceleration as the main body. Put simply, something is moving with it, but not like it. This isn't random debris scattering into the void. It looks like a coordinated, persistent, and stable system, forcing researchers to reconsider whether we are looking at a single object or a complex convoy traversing interstellar space. Hubble tracking identified a nucleus only about 5.6 kilometers in diameter, much smaller than we thought. Yet, it sustains an intensity of activity that raises immediate red flags. A body that small simply shouldn't be able to keep this up after perihelion. Deep space imaging revealed a structural irregularity that shatters the standard model. We see the expected plasma and dust tails, which is normal. But then there's the anti-tail. Following perihelion, astronomers detected a sunward-oriented structure, a luminous teardrop shape pointing directly at the sun. According to classical comet physics, this shouldn't exist in such a persistent, stable way. This anomaly is reinforced by math, confirming a consistent non-gravitational push acting on 3 Atlas itself, a force that decreases with distance exactly like solar gravity. The critical detail, however, is that the surrounding swarm does not experience this acceleration. The elegant but eerie implication is that the main object is receiving an extra push while the swarm lags behind, forming a dense, reflective structure made not of gas, but of countless solid bodies reflecting sunlight. We are essentially witnessing a grand optical illusion where billions of tiny fragments create a glare that blinds our professional telescopes, meaning the true nucleus might be partially or entirely obscured behind this shield of its own debris. Of all the anomalies surrounding 3 Atlas, none is as unnerving as the pulse. A precise, repeatable brightness variation occurs every 16.16 hours, measured consistently across multiple observation campaigns. This isn't background noise or an instrument glitch. It is a rhythm embedded in the object itself that some scientists have begun calling a cosmic heartbeat. While the conservative explanation suggests rotation, a spinning nucleus periodically exposing an active region, that idea falls apart under scrutiny. The pulse modulates the entire coma structure and triggers a coordinated response from the jets, behaving as if the object is inhaling and exhaling rather than merely tumbling. Furthermore, observations show that many jets remain stubbornly fixed toward the sun, maintaining a geometry that defies the rotational movement we would expect from a simple spinning rock. This points to internal activity, something occurring beneath the surface that releases material and energy like clockwork. It implies that this is not a passive rock reacting to the sun, but an active system powered by its own internal engine. When the James Webb Space Telescope turned its infrared eye toward 3 Atlas, the mystery didn't resolve. It deepened. It revealed a composition dominated by carbon dioxide, with traces of water and a shocking abundance of complex organic compounds. This chemistry places the object entirely outside the norm for solar system comets, which are typically driven by water ice sublimation. Instead, it suggests this visitor formed in an environment far colder and chemically more stable than our own. Webb confirmed that the activity isn't just skin deep. The energy powering the jets appears to originate from deep within the object, supporting the radical hypothesis of cryovolcanism. Ice volcanoes fueled by internal chemical reactions rather than solar heat. This mechanism explains almost everything. A cryovolcanic interior could sustain activity long after perihelion, generate the periodic 16.16-hour bursts, and eject solid fragments rather than fine dust, naturally creating the swarm that dominates the object's appearance. 3 Atlas isn't cooling down because it isn't running on solar heat alone. It is venting stored internal energy, essentially behaving like a fragment of a differentiated body, a piece of an exoplanet or exomoon ripped away in another star system, now waking up after a long slumber in the dark. With cryovolcanism and internal chemistry now firmly on the table, the scientific discussion has finally moved beyond the false choice of comet versus spacecraft that dominated the early headlines. We are acknowledging that 3 Atlas is neither, but something far more haunting in its normality. The data suggests it is a natural fragment of another world, a shard of an exoplanet or moon, torn apart during a violent cataclysm in another star system and cast into interstellar space. It carries with it a differentiated interior, metallic components, and volatile-rich layers shaped by conditions wildly different from our own. This interpretation elegantly explains why its composition resembles pristine meteorites found on Earth, why its activity mimics icy moons like Enceladus rather than simple comets, and why it sheds solid companions instead of dissolving into vapor. It is a survivor of a planetary disaster. In this context, the swarm surrounding it is not debris from decay, but material thrown off from a coherent body that has survived the journey between stars remarkably intact. We must view it not as a rock, but as shrapnel from a dead world. When all the data is finally assembled, the resulting picture is both staggering and humble. Every single anomaly stops contradicting the others and starts converging into a unified profile. James Webb reveals a composition pointing to formation in an extremely cold, chemically rich environment. Hubble shows a small nucleus sustaining outsized activity, wrapped in a luminous coma that hides more than it reveals. Orbital analysis confirms non-gravitational forces acting strictly on the main body, but not the swarm, creating stable optical structures that defy classical models. And the pulse ties it all together as the rhythmic signature of an active interior rather than a dying surface. Taken as a whole, 3 Atlas is best viewed not as a messenger, but as a sample, a naturally delivered fragment of another planetary system that has wandered into ours by chance. It proves that planetary material can survive ejection, interstellar travel, and reactivation around a strange star. This object carries the fingerprints of a distant system, a chemistry formed in extreme cold, an internal structure capable of sustained activity, and a surface that reacts not like a slowly dying comet, but like a body reactivating after a long dormancy. The pulse, the swarm, the cryovolcanic behavior, and the exotic composition all point to a fragment torn from a larger body, a moon or planet that once orbited another star and now wanders the galaxy alone. It is extraordinary not because it breaks the laws of physics, but because it reveals something we were never quite prepared to accept, that fragments of other worlds can survive the void and wake up again. What James Webb and Hubble are showing us is not an alien machine, but something possibly more profound, a natural relic of planetary evolution drifting among the stars, offering us a glimpse into the geology of a world we will never see directly. 3E Atlas is not just passing through our solar system. It is reminding us that star systems are not sealed containers. They are dynamic engines that eject material, exchange matter, and occasionally send pieces of themselves across interstellar space. This discovery leaves scientists speechless because it implies that if one fragment like this can reach us, then countless others must exist, floating silently between the stars. They are like messages in bottles, carrying the chemical and geological records of worlds that have long since perished or evolved in the dark. We are forced to accept that the interstellar void is not empty. It is populated by the debris of billions of years of planetary formation and destruction, an unseen population of ghosts that has been there all along, waiting for our technology to become sharp enough to see them. This object is likely just the tip of the iceberg, a single data point in a vast archive of galactic history that is constantly passing through our neighborhood, mostly undetected. For everyone we see, millions pass by in the dark, keeping their secrets locked away in the cold. 3E Atlas will soon fade from view, heading back into the darkness beyond our reach. But it leaves behind a permanent shift in perspective. We're no longer just observers staring at distant points of light through telescopes. We now understand that sometimes the universe delivers a physical piece of those distant worlds directly to our doorstep, bridging the unimaginable distances of space with a tangible delivery. This changes the game for future astronomy. The next time an interstellar visitor appears on our screens, we won't waste time asking if it is real or a glitch. We will be asking a much more specific and thrilling question. Which piece of a distant world has just arrived? Is it a chunk of a core, a fragment of a crust, or a shard of an icy moon? We have graduated from looking at the stars to realizing that the stars are, in a very literal sense, throwing pieces of themselves at us. So, after all the data, all the images, and all the competing theories, we arrive at a conclusion that is both simpler and much more disturbing than anyone expected. 3E Atlas is extraordinary not because it is artificial, but because it reveals that the universe is a dynamic ecosystem that constantly mixes, recycles, and redistributes its building blocks. It did not come to answer every question we have about the cosmos, but to expand the question itself, forcing us to realize that we are part of a vast, interconnected exchange of matter that spans the galaxy. The universe has just delivered a piece of another world to our door. And rest assured, this will not be the last time it happens. If you want to be here when the next visitor arrives to rewrite our history again, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the cosmos is speaking, and we are finally learning how to listen. I'd love to hear what you think about this, so drop a comment below. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please share this video and subscribe to help the channel grow. Every bit of support counts,